Hello, I'm Monica White, and I'm with FolkWorks.org. And today it is my pleasure to have a chance to talk with Evie Ladin, I think one of the most creative, innovative, talented women in music. And I mean that, Evie.
Thank you.
She's a banjo player, singer, a songwriter, percussive dancer, choreographer, square dance caller, instrument singing and dance teacher, award-winning entertainer and recording artist. Well, could take a lot of time just introducing you, Evie, but I will say that you are known for bringing joy to your audiences around the country and other parts of the world. If you want to know everything about Evie as much as possible, check out her website, evieladin.com. And you can find her albums, her videos, and her performing schedule. But now I'd like to take the time to ask you some questions about you and your remarkable career. And I want to say thank you for making time to talk with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So you've been surrounded by music and dance all your life. In fact, you were born into a musical family, which I think most people know. So there are lots of instruments, dancing, songs. So you had a lot of choices around you. And at a point where you maybe recognized you had some choices, why did you choose the specific instruments, the specific dance, the kinds of things, the vocal styles, the dancing that you do now? Do you remember?
I wish I could say that I actually chose it because I didn't really. My family was real music appreciators, but nobody played an instrument. And so, I played clarinet in elementary school and all of that. But around the time I was 8 years old, a lot of folk musicians who were traveling through our home in New Jersey would stay with us. And John Cohen, famously the New Lost City Ramblers, I remember sitting on our couch and said, "You girls should play the banjo," me and my older sister, Abby, who's a couple years older than me. And my dad took us out to get a banjo. And I am extremely left-handed, but I'm very grateful. He said he wanted to get one banjo for both of us. And then we had lessons with a young Bob Carlin who lived nearby with his parents in Princeton. And so we had banjo lessons. And then on the dance side of things, my mom was an international folk dance teacher. And we started clogging, standing behind her at a workshop with the Bannerman family when I was about 5 years old. And we were always, she was doing a lot of workshops when international folk dance was all the rage. And we would go to her for public things. We would take the money at the door. We would be around her teaching. We'd be doing the dances. Often we'd be the only kids around. And, but on my dad's side, he was always taking us to old time music festivals. And so there were a lot of amazing clogging groups at that time. And my sister and I really got the clogging bug, and we just started learning that and choreographing. And so I feel like I kind of fell into it. I really had no idea it was going to be the career that has become.
Well, it's a remarkable story, really. When did you know? How did you know that performing was going to be what you were going to do with your life?
I mean, I loved playing, I loved performing, I loved dancing. I feel like the most amazing thing my family gave me was this experience that music and dance is what people do and when they get together. And I honestly didn't know how I was going to make a career of it, because also my skill set is a little unusual in terms of performing arts, or it was at the time anyway. And lucky enough to be able to be a part of Rhythm and Shoes out of Dayton, Ohio. And that was my professional training. And it just, it was a percussive dance company with a live band. And a community grew out of a community, is still part of a community. And so it just became what I was doing. I just pursued the things that really interested me. And I went to Brown University. I created my own major. Very, very early on as a teenager, was really drawn to the African roots of Appalachian music. I was introduced to African music and dance. It made a lot of sense to me. and I just pursued all things about Africa and this uh, just the more expansive view of Appalachian culture than it being just an Anglo culture. So both like from an intellectual perspective and then just wanting to continue being involved in the music and dance. I don't know.
No, you kind of um, answered a little bit of what I was going to ask you next. Is did you ever prepare to do anything else? Did you ever think of doing anything else but what you
Um,
do?
Getting a liberal arts education isn't exactly preparation for anything in particular, but I will say it was incredibly informative. I got to grow a lot and pursue a lot of my interests in that vein. And even though the degree itself has never gotten me a job, the experience that I had at Brown, especially with some really great mentors, just it created a really solid foundation for a lot of the things I pursued after that.
And
And I
you
forget the
pretty much
question.
stayed with um, your various performing.
I
Uh,
will say, going through my 20s and figuring how am I going to make a career out of this? And, sometimes I'm a little dismayed that I didn't pursue like one thing completely, but I really, as you know, you listed this range of things that I do, and I love all of those things. So, and it makes for an interesting and diverse career. But I will say, like, not knowing exactly how I was going to parlay that into a completely professional career. For several years, I studied American Sign Language.
oh,
And a good friend, a fiddle player here in the Bay Area, said, you'd be great at it. You can work freelance. It's a service. It pays well. And it was all these things that felt like it would also fit with a music and dance career. And I got up to the point, I studied enough to where I would need to go to a 2-year interpreter's training program. I really took to the language. I really loved it. And it's very interesting because working in the deaf community, they obviously could care less about my music career. It's very separate
yeah.
worlds. But I got to the point where I was either going to make my first solo record or I was going to do this interpreter's training program. And I interviewed people in the program and they just said it's very all encompassing. Nobody does anything else. And I decided I could always come back to it if I needed to. I made my first solo record and the rest is
The
history.
rest is history. It's so interesting, Evie, because the person who taught me my first notes on the banjo was exactly that. He was a sign language expert, and
Oh,
he
wow.
taught at university, and he interpreted in court. I mean, he was a real expert in
Yeah.
that, and he's an amazing banjo player.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's
Cool.
just interesting how that made me think of, wow, that's who I learned from.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have you can sing and dance and play in many styles, but you know it's you. you know,
That's
we know
cool.
it's you. Who would you say um, are your influencers in your style, the way
Mm.
you present yourself? Who might have influenced um, your way of performing, and what is it about them or a person that you admire about them that you aspire to?
Um, hmm. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is actually the community, is the people who are just driven to come together at every possible opportunity to play music and dance together. And that inspires me so much. Just that kind of energy. And especially as you get older and you realize this is not what everybody does.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people don't have these kinds of participatory activities. And it creates a really interesting community of people. I love that it's like very generationally and socioeconomically diverse. It's not very diverse racially, but that's shifting slowly, very slowly. But there are reasons why it isn't very diverse racially. But just the energy of the community, how people come together and inspire one another with listening and playing and the doing of things. Um,
Yeah, I
I've had a
understand.
I've had
Yeah.
a couple of real mentors in the dance world. Michelle Bach at Brown was really encouraged my choreography and my study of the African American tradition in dance, and just like really facilitated me gaining a lot of knowledge. And she also did a really beautiful um, uh, mix of West African and modern dance that I felt really it was very authentic. It was very true. It wasn't just like pulling things from this and that. And she's very deep in West African traditions as well. And so there was a lot of education there. And then when I was able to join Rhythm and Shoes, Sharon Leahy is the choreographer, and Rick Good is the music director. And Rick wrote a lot of songs, often the songs we were dancing to, and really evocative, gorgeous, really clever lyricism and things like that. And then Sharon is a really gifted choreographer, and very exacting. So I got a very solid professional training. And also, I think starting off as a dancer, there's nothing between you and the audience, and you're putting yourself out there. And so it allows you have to develop a certain comfortability of just being on the stage and just being on an empty stage and making something, drawing people in. So it was remarkable training. And then also just even the training in choreography, the training in mixing music and dance and how they connect. Um, and it's funny, I hadn't actually thought of this before, but I think surreptitiously, Rick's writing, how we used it for dance, was really impactful on the writing that I did later.
Hmm. Well, it's really interesting what you're saying. I love that thought that when you're dancing, there's nothing between you and the audience. I never thought about hiding behind the banjo, which I probably did, not being a dancer. But you're so comfortable on stage. Yeah, I've seen you several times, and recently I watched your performance from about a year ago, I think, at the Freight and Salvage. Um, um, and I forget how wonderful you are. Every time I see you, I say, "Oh my God, she's so good," and your comfort with everything that you do, and probably that has a lot to do with your getting out there with nothing between you and your audience,
Uh-huh.
and just dancing. I think it's just wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Evie, you have performed in many places, probably. You have many stories about where you've performed. I know I have. But are there a couple of venues that you would say are your favorite places to perform? Types of places to perform,
Mm.
and why?
Um, you know, I didn't grow up in the South, but I grew up like really being entrenched in old time music and dance. And working with my partner, Keith Terry, and the overlap there in the percussive dance world, um, and how we've grown this international body music community, and being able to bring traditional like the first traditional American music, this mix of white, black, and brown. It's like the first music
Yes.
and dance traditions kind of created with a certain feel, in the United States. Being able to communicate that across cultures is really gratifying. And I can't tell you how many times people have said, I didn't know that there was any traditional music or dance in America.
Mm.
And that's for people outside of America who are just getting a steady stream of pop music, which is great, but they don't have a lot of exposure to this that's so much a part of our history, which is cool. I'm sure there's a lot of their history I know nothing about. But I really love representing this tradition in its depth and authenticity, and not in its like sort of yeehaw popularized, somewhat derogatory stereotype of Southern American culture. I have a lot of respect and for everything that, the very difficult history that happened in the South. And there are a lot of good people there. There's a lot of incredible music and dance traditions that come out of that area. And so I feel like representing that on an international level, performing traditional songs at a jazz club in Istanbul or, in front of the governor of Nigeria, like just some very random and hilarious opportunities that I've had has just been amazing experiences. And
That's
I mean,
wonderful.
maybe I've done that at the loss of developing my persona and popularity in this country. I find I'm really like having grown up all around, all up and down the East Coast and gone to all those festivals and stuff. I've been in California for more than 20 years now, but I still like really identify back east. And I wish I had kind of been able to develop my career more in that area. And there are some iconic venues that I don't know if I'll ever have the opportunity to play because I just generationally where I fell and all this kind of stuff. But another really one very special one was doing A Prairie Home Companion
Ah, yes.
live from a sold out San Francisco opera house, broadcast to millions of people. And
Wow.
it was a live radio show, so it was very fast and fast paced and time tight, and you don't really know what's going on. And I just love those kinds of that opportunity was really wonderful.
That's fantastic. Truly, yeah. Well, you perform with others. I know you have your core band, but you do performances with other people of all kinds and in your different performance arenas. What are the characteristics or skills or talents or what do you look for in choosing or maybe agreeing, yes, I'll perform with you?
Groove. Groove is huge. Um, Easy to get along with. In terms of, I mean, choosing performers, I feel like so often the people I work with, we've just fallen together in certain circumstances. I mean, I look for opportunities that I think would feel good to me, but uh, I know that, there are some people that when you sing together, you get a certain zizz in the harmonies. I've really been blessed with the people that I, have fallen in with to work with. Um, and again, like my skills are a little unusual, so I kind of find that I'm not invited into other things so often as I have to build them myself. If I can say that. And I don't
Sure.
know if it's that curse of, you know, nothing was going to happen for me, so I had to create it, but people see you as a creator and that you're doing your own thing and maybe don't invite you as a collaborator. I don't know. I don't know psychically what the deal is with that, or if it's just, my unusual set of skills or whatever. But, definitely that ziz and singing and a groove and like being easy to get along with,
Yes.
not holding
Having,
grudges or
I
being
got
too
it.
intense.
Having been in a band for 10 years with four other women, so five women for 10 years, wow, I understand what you're saying. But one of my favorite videos of yours that I just love and kind of shows all of this that you were talking about, the special sense of harmony that you is ain't no grave. I
Oh,
love that one. I love that one. All of you, I never counted how many of you there were, but all of you dancing and singing and doing the percussive dance and the choreographer. I just love that. In case
that's
anybody
my
wants to
group,
look it up,
Motor Dance.
your motor dance,
Yeah,
yes, it's just wonderful.
thank
It's
you.
such a special feeling to watch it,
And
hear it.
that's kind of what I'm talking about taking that a traditional Appalachian tune from both white and black traditions, reuniting it with African diaspora rhythms, and that's part of the focus of motor dance in the body music world is kind of connecting all of those things again in a very unusual, weird,
Yeah,
quirky way.
yeah, it's your style. I think it's very, very much who you are. I wouldn't apologize for that. We all have, over years of performing, maybe a favorite performance, and you may have already answered it with your Prairie Home Companion, but maybe there's something else. I'd like you to talk about a favorite performance of yours and why it was, and then a least favorite performance. What happened? How did this happen?
Boy, a favorite performance is hard because, for one thing, here we are, several years into a pandemic. So I haven't performed in several years. And so to remember the wheres and whens of certain things, um, you know, I wondered, it seemed like each decade of my life, I've had a different group focus for the
Mm.
majority of the decade. And
Mhm.
during the pandemic, I wondered if my band had run its course. And then after a very long break, once we were vaccinated and everything, we played together again. And it was like, ah, feels so good. The confluence of all of us together is so nice. So, I've definitely had experiences with my band where the sound is good. The sound is really good on stage, where you really feel the audience with you. Like you finish a song and someone goes, ah, you feel that kind of vibe. You hear some like exclamations in the middle of things. It makes people want to move or to cry. And very often, in fact, I sort of had a mental note to myself recently that we should make more eye contact and move around a little bit more on stage because I've realized, and I don't know if this is just since pandemic or what, that I get very, like, I'm just listening. I'm listening, I'm playing, and so I'm engrossed in what I'm doing. And just like the lusciousness of the sound, when the sound is good and the audience is with you, to think of when and where that might have happened, it happens here and there and everywhere from time to time. And then the converse of like when the sound is terrible or when people are just, you know, I don't know, don't treat you well, treat you you know, like it's not important what you're doing or don't respect don't respect the musician, honestly. There are a lot of people who do, but there are a lot of people who just don't understand everything that goes into, you know, being solid enough in your performance that you're working, that you're creating something if they'll just like give into it and receive it. A lot of
Yeah.
people feel like they know all about that, or people are so overwhelmed with media or things like that that sometimes the live performance people just like talk right through it. And
Yes.
it's not the vibe I'm after.
And we've all had a few of those. I guess we have to take the bad with the good,
Yeah.
perhaps. Evie, you have a number of albums and videos. Do I dare ask you? I always feel like it's kind of a dare. Do I dare ask you if you have a favorite album or a favorite uh,
Um,
a favorite video or album that you've made?
it's funny. I think my albums are good, but honestly, putting my performance into just the audio realm has always been really challenging for me. I
Ah,
feel like I feel like my biggest strengths are as a performer, as like communicating the music across and creating an experience for people. And so I feel like I haven't been as good about really knowing, um, how to translate that exactly to a record. And then I also, as an acoustic band, there's always the question of, do you represent the way the band is on stage, or do you allow the songs to really blossom? And
mhm.
so, like, my record Jump the Fire was an effort to really represent what the band sounds like. And it was just the trio. We added a few extra instruments, but not very much. It was mostly like our sound. And often when we play shows and people say, I want something that sounds like this, that's the record I give them. But the one that came after that, Caught on a Wire, is a collection of songs, of mostly my original songs, except for one. And that time I wanted the songs to get whatever they needed. And so some of it sounds very indie, sounds really
Uh,
different than what you would hear us play. Um, and, but still, like, I wanted to see if the songs could travel in a different kind of way than they do, just from performing. And especially as contentious as it is, just like with streaming services, for something to grab the ear, maybe it needs to be more contemporary. I don't know, or more traditional. I always like find I'm somewhere in the middle of all of that. But
well, and you're able to cross all those challenges, and you're able
yeah,
to to be there and to be present and whatever happens. And I think that's a real
hmm
special skill, talent that you have. Well, I know you are going to hit the road soon.
hmm
Can you tell us a little bit about what's coming up for you? Who are you playing with and where?
yeah. Signs are looking good for the waning of this variant and the opening up of things, and I hope my audiences feel the same. Because of course the tour that's planned has been planned for many months, long before Omicron came along. I wasn't in a hurry during the winter months. I wasn't in a hurry during any of COVID to just jump back in, but I did feel like this spring would feel good, and so far it's looking in that way. So anyway, we're looking to kick off with a big show at the Freight and Salvage, a return to the Freight and Salvage stage,
Great.
and we're focusing on the songs, on doing, we usually do a mix of old time mashups and cover songs and original songs. So we're kind of diving into the back catalog and pulling out
Yeah.
some old songs that we don't usually do. And I'm excited about that, especially because each time we do one, we're all like, when I say we, I'm talking about my band with Keith Terry and Eric Pearson, of course. And everyone's like, I like that. Do you like that? Yeah, I like it. I like it. I really like it. So anyway, February 25th will be in at the Freight and Salvage, the 26th in Sacramento, and then we're doing a They'll Be Coming Around the Mountains tour of going into the foothills and around the backside of the east of the Sierras, and then down through Southern California, San Luis Obispo and home. So not a super long tour, but
Hmm.
hopefully
But how exciting, yeah, to
we've
get
built in a couple days to actually enjoy where we are.
are
Thank
you
you.
coming all the way down to the LA area by
We
any
are. We're
chance?
playing a show, the Nichols Canyon
Oh
concerts in
yeah.
Hollywood. Yeah.
Well, I may see you there.
We'll be there in March. I hope so.
That would be great. I would love to see you again in person. Well, I really enjoyed talking with you. My gosh, I know that we could talk for a long time and cover more things, but would you be willing to play? I don't know. I like to say your current something that you really like right now. Your current favorite song on your current favorite instrument, or sing,
Well,
or dance, or do whatever you like. We'd really enjoy that.
one of my current favorites is actually many of my current favorites, I would need other people in order to represent it as well as I would
Got
like.
it. Yeah.
But here's a song that I do enjoy playing when I do play solo. And it's what I often do is a mashup with, it's an original song called Glory, mashed up with an old time tune, Valley Forge. So I don't know if it's cheating
Yes.
on my instrumentals, but I like
Okay.
the mashup idea. So here we go. This is Glory, and it's off the record Caught on a Wire. Sometimes I am, and sometimes I ain't. And I ain't maybe most of the time. Sometimes I can, but sometimes I can't. And I can't without you by my side. The sun is shining all around. It's not shining on me. How long long will you stay in this town? Will you come go with me? Will you come go with me? Glory, wind in my hair, glory, sun at my heels, glory, shadows are lengthening down, glory the world, come go with me. Sometimes I ain't, and sometimes I am. And I am when I know where I stand. Sometimes I can't, but sometimes I can. And I can be the one you demand. The sun is shining all around. It's not shining on me. How long will you stay in this town? Will you come go with me? Will you come go with me? Glory, wind in my hair, glory, sun at my heels, glory, shadows are lengthening down, glory the world, come go with me. You came to me in a color scheme where blacks and browns they turned into greens, yellows and reds they filled up my bed, my head filled with glorious dreams. Glory, wind in my hair, glory, sun at my heels, glory, shadows are lengthening down, glory the world, come go with me.
Just wonderful.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I hope to see you in March. I will
Yeah.
try to be there. It's not that far from me. And I really appreciate, we all, I think, appreciate you're making the time to be with us on the FolkWorks. And we'll be posting this on the FolkWorks YouTube channel. Thank you, Evie Ladin. And don't forget evieladin.com. Find out all about her and all the things she's done. And go and see her.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Monica.
Evie.
Bye.
Bye-bye.